Greetings, folks. Thank you for tuning in. And I'm going to be continuing with a series of shows that address treatment and mindfulness based anxiety reduction's treatment of psychological suffering. And to give you a quick review, there are 6 treatments that we emphasize. There are other elements, but let's just talk about these 6 treatments right now. The first treatment that I use is a deep breathing. It's a deep breathing treatment. This centers us and anesthetizes our discomfort to some extent, and the oxygenation is associated with a process called internal breathing. In other words, you're going to expel all your air out through your mouth. You take in a large inhalation, get it all out again. The lungs then provide the oxygen to the bloodstream. The bloodstream goes to each cell and releases the carbon dioxide and provides new oxygen for our cellular life, and that we call internal breathing. So the deep breathing process is very good for us. It oxygenates the body. We breathe deeply, and you have that on one of my tapes. So take a look at it. Second treatment is actual meditation, and of course this is a non-conceptual meditation equivalent to Zazen of the Zen Buddhist meditation, equivalent to Vipassana or insight meditation, and also resonates with the Advaita perspective, the non-duality perspective. So this is non-conceptual awareness. Non-conceptual awareness is very important to understand, and to understand also its value. And probably one of the great non-conceptualists was the Buddha, and he practiced remaining free, if you will, of attachment to the constant stream of ideas that come across our mind. We have everyone has their unique karma, and I think that's something I should define for you, because karma does not belong. It's not your karma. Karma points at a condition of nature. So we are, in fact, I am Cesar, undoubtedly. However, I am in fact a manifestation of the universe forming as a human being. This human being has schemata, and I tend to create duality and a sense of self, a sense of a worldview, a value system. I have a knowledge base, and my memory keeps this sense of constancy going. And so that's my personal reality associated with this wonderful word karma, an awfully important term. I think we just have to associate it wisely for those of us who are familiar with some of the psychological readings. The archetype, the schemata. The archetype is a singular universal symbol, and these are our karmic circumstances. They are conditions of the universe. Every thought and every gesture, everything we do has archetypal implications. There is nothing that you and I do that the universe does not, and the universe is. So this is a bit of an existential type of conversation, I know. However, it has to do with the healing process. Why? Because it decenters us. It's not any longer personalized. We do not personalize our experience when we shift to meditative placement. pretty important conversation. We'll go on with it, and I have already a tape on the second, mindful exposure to the present. I also provided a tape for mindful exposure to disturbances, and in that, what we're doing, folks, is we are entering the meditative placement of attention. And when we begin to do that, you are visited by your emotional wounds and by other karmic elements while you're sitting. Now, sitting still provides you the capability of observation. Why? You are very, very still and are non-reactive. These thoughts and ideas and feelings come across our mind, suggesting that we react, but however we don't. And what happens is that insight is increased tremendously. You begin to see what is coming across your mind, and you sit perfectly still until it passes, and the next event begins to unfold, arises, as they say in the literature. So that state of observation is a very helpful. Mindful exposure to the present is indeed the holy grail. It is the healing perspective, and Buddha indeed encouraged remaining in that consciousness pretty much throughout our lives. Thoughts and imaginings are indeed interesting, and they do come into the picture. We must live the life of the individual. However, we also need to live the life of nature also, and it is nature that's happening. Let's remember that you and I feel that we are seeing. We do not really know how to see or hear. My capacity to talk with you is a mystery to me, and we are in fact in a collaboration with a greater organizing principle, a higher power, if you will. And finding that stillness is wonderful. It brings down the intensity, the conditioned intensity of reactivity. And that's what happens when we are emotionally wounded. Then we have our drives developing, and they get very, there can be a lot of confusion. Sit perfectly still, observe, breathe, survive, live, and observe this extraordinary condition that is the human condition. We are also transcendent of the human condition. We are creatures, and this is something that we can awaken to, and it is very good for us. So the exposure to disturbances was the deliberate recalling of a disturbance. You deliberately recall it when you are in contemplative practice. Well, when you're in contemplative practices at the Zendo or at the meditation center, you are visited by disturbances. We learn by deliberately exposing ourselves to disturbance how to respond. And how is that? We sit very still, allow the disturbance to enter awareness, and we do not react. We let it pass, and we come into the breath. We remain aware of the body. The disturbance has hit. It's the very same disturbance that used to produce lots of problems, but now you're responding differently, and that's the key. Responding differently to the karmic stream, to the impressions, to the schema that come into awareness. We respond differently. We do not try to get away. We're not going to be getting away. The mind has recalled our earlier events, our insecurities, our sense of inadequacies, the traumas that we have endured. They need to remain. When we deny them, try to take a new identity, we get a shadow effect, and you end up with intrusive symptoms. It's not the way to go. Mindfulness, non-conceptual awareness, is not a avoidant coping mode. We get better in this process of observation. This is now let's talk about today's session is a exposure to the maladjusted coping modes. Let's remember what they are. Maladjusted coping modes can be a reaction to an underlying schema, and for example, the schema of defectiveness. There's something wrong with me. There's some shameful element in me. You have the idea that you are perhaps unlovable, inadequate, insufficient. These notions are operating from earlier days, and